Welcome to Teaching Orchestra. In this episode, I'm going to be going over how to teach Enchanten by Cheryl Jane Atwell. This is going to be an experiment for me because this is a work that I plan on teaching, but I haven't taught before. This is going to be a change from the format of this episode. For instance, I can't really make a common problems video because I've never heard a group performance, so how would I know what the common problems are? I can probably guess, and honestly, I could probably be pretty accurate. But if I made a common problems video, it would have to be a few seasons in the future, okay? There are a lot of great works for string orchestra that are suitable for public school orchestras, and we could just rotate the same pieces every 4 years. And what would we miss out on? Well, for one, there's been a rapid deployment of music in the educational string orchestra literature, and it just keeps evolving. And there are more composers getting to the game, and the composers that we have that have been sticking around, their stuff is getting better every time they publish a new work. There's more options available for us as orchestra teachers, and many of those options are high quality and offer us new ways to apply technique and broaden our students' understanding of music making. So what's unique about Enchanten, and why am I programming it for my string orchestra? Well, Enchanten is a waltz, and Miss Atwell writes, "in a gentle one." As we can see in the score, the primary rhythmic figures emphasize beat 2, giving it the feel of a landler. So we see the violins and violas emphasizing beat 2 here. Harmonically, we have a lot of minor 7th and 9th chords, and when the orchestration calls for first violins, second violins, violas, cellos, and string basses, that's 5 chord tones, so we have one voice per chord tone, assuming we're not omitting any chord tones, and most of the time we are not. Notice in this homorhythmic section here that we have this B flat major 7th chord with a non-chord tone here in the bass, this E flat that never resolves. We've got these minor 7ths here between the cello and first violin and the bass and the viola. Everybody's playing something different and everybody's note matters. And what we can do with Enchanten is build a lot of independence in our young musicians. Our bass players often get left out, especially in this grade of literature. And notice how they have contrary motion to everybody else. Everybody else is kind of planing, but the basses have the non-chord tone and then they go up in contrary motion. We have very dense and rich harmonies all through this phrase. And these harmonies are not what we would consider to be traditionally functional. I mean, the major 7ths and the non-chord tones don't resolve like they would in the typical common practice area language of musical writing. And the language that was developed in the Baroque period, right? And think of all the major works for string orchestra and the abundance of masterpieces that came out of that era, like all the concerto grossos and the sinfonias and all that kind of stuff. The musical vocabulary that came out of that had an extraordinary influence on the string orchestra genre moving forward through history. And even if you look at the Mendelssohn sinfonias, he plays by similar rules to like Vivaldi. So, to branch out from this language into something new and also make it accessible from the technical side to our students is innovational. And that's why I programmed it for my group. My goal when I teach this later this year is going to be to solidify the technique early on so that I have enough time to teach the musical concepts to my students. Now, am I going to walk my students through a complete harmonic analysis of this work? Probably not. That's not my goal. My goal is to have them recognize the sounds that they're hearing and playing and let them explore these sounds to help them tell the story. And what is the story of Enchanten? Enchanten is a magical piece that mystifies and charms at the same time. Its effect is that of being in a magical garden where wondrous things occur to delight the senses. The mood is mysterious and miraculous with magical images occurring everywhere to amaze one's perception. Each part is unique in conveying how the senses are stimulated by sight and sound. A wondrous piece that is a delight to hear and play. Even though Enchanten has a program, it's still very abstract and mysterious. It's like affect versus affect. It's confusing, right? Is it a verb or a noun? Is it a force that acts upon something or a change in the result? To understand which word to use, affect or affect, we have to draw upon how others have used it in the past and come to an understanding that when we spell things in different ways and we use words in different ways that are outside of academic norms, we can come up with something completely different. Okay, so rather than relying upon the traditional harmonic writing of the Baroque era, we can explore other ways to do things and derive a new meaning. So take the title, for instance, Enchanten. This is a Middle English word that derives from the Old French, enchanter, meaning to greatly affect with an A. But that definition doesn't really give the fullest meaning to the word either, because there's like a supernatural layer to it, outside of our observable real-world experience. The way I'm going to relate this concept to my students is to show them abstract art. Perhaps start with Monet and then maybe show them some pointillism like Seurat and ask my students, what happens when the painter leaves out detail in the painting? Do we have to use our imagination to fill in the gaps? Like here, we clearly see a man with a cane, but will everybody see the same man and the same cane? Why would one person see it differently than another? Maybe they have a different personal experience that would lead them to a different visualization. Hopefully, we have some high-level thinking going on in my classroom, and that's kind of my goal, is to get them to think on a higher level, use their critical thinking skills as well. And on the other hand, who wants to be in an orchestra where the teacher just yaps all the time? And students want to play, right? And that's a fair criticism. And maybe not all the students will get it, but music is by its nature abstract, and our goal as performers is to use our music to affect our audience. In this case, using the sounds of our instruments to tell the story of this magical garden. But in every performance, we intend to connect to our audience's imagination, and how we do that matters. It's manipulative. We're using sounds like a scientist designing a maze for a mouse. Where are the walls? Where are the dead ends? Where is the reward? It's my goal to teach my students these concepts using Enchanten because it'll be easier to apply them when they're playing Bach, when they're playing Vivaldi. And this will be a step in that process. How many other pieces out there for string orchestra can serve as that mediary in the process? That's why I like to try to stay up to date and utilize these new works for string orchestra that are coming out, because they have a lot of value and they help to bridge gaps. In this case, not so much a technical gap as much as a musical gap in understanding and expression. In my next episode, I'm going over the bowing technique in Enchanten, and I hope to see you then.